he says quarantine leveled the playing field for lyricists who want to stay true to their crafts at a time where the club pretty much dictates what we have to do to survive. The lit stand on the couch music serves its purpose, but so does the sit your ass down and plot on a million music. So he's saying it's leveled the playing field for now until everything opens back up. I don't know if I'm necessarily mad at that. I'll throw it out to you guys. How do you guys feel about that concept? And if this is true, will it last? Go ahead, Long.
I feel like Jay, you should speak on this first.
Jay Moore, talk to me because you definitely out in the clubs with your mask on and all the light skinned chicks. So you can go first.
Well, no, I do agree with that, because now we're in a situation where we have to sit with records and really kind of enjoy them, because we honestly that quote unquote stand on couch music and pop bottles music, there are people who are back in the club, but not really. And the thing is, there was such a, in that initial quarantine that we had, it's almost like time stood still for popular music. And other than like huge records like the Megan and the Cardi song with WAP and all that, like people are still partying to the same records that were out pre-quarantine. They haven't, there's only a few records that have broken through as new club records. I know we talked a little bit about how West Side Gun has put out basically 3 records in quarantine, but this is probably the best time for him to do that, because he's got a situation where he can really lock in an audience who has nothing to do but listen to music and listen to lyrics and listen to a different kind of production that doesn't particularly fit in the context of going to the club. Like right now, if I was a real commercial artist like the Baby, or like say someone like Cardi B, if she's got a whole album ready, I wouldn't put that shit out until the clubs open back up for real, because it's kind of it's lost on people who can't shake their ass and pop bottles. If you're not able to do those things, then like honestly hold that music, and it's time for you cats with the lyrics and we're really trying to make an artistic statement. It's time for you to come back out and do what you got to do.
I can kind of see it both ways, as far as it helping lyricists and also kind of being a damper on them, because being stuck in the house and not being able to go anywhere. Essentially, I was actually having a conversation with my bro earlier. Not being able to change the scenery and get around something that's going to motivate you or inspire you may cause you to have writer's block. So you being a lyricist, you being cooped up during this time, you might not be able to come up with some dope material. So it's kind of like you're in the same boat as the people that are making stuff for the club, because they can't go to the club, get their inspiration. You can't travel to the places or get comfortable where you like to be to write your music, because you can't travel either. So it's kind of like you're both in a standstill. But I do see it being an advantage for lyricists as far as listenability, because you don't have to have that club hit. If the club ain't open, that shit wasn't gonna get played in the club anyway. So
yeah,
right.
That's where your advantage is right there.
So Spoolz, let's say everything starts to trend back to the way it was, quote unquote. I think our norm is going to be different, but you know what I mean. Do you think the lyricists will die down as the club starts to open back up, or will this be beneficial for them moving forward and they may be able to carve out another pocket?
I don't know. I just think this is interesting what Currency said, because it's assuming, you guys correct me if I'm wrong, that people are just sitting on their ass and listening to music.
Exactly. That's was gonna be my point.
Yeah. Which they might be. I've sit on my ass and listen to music sometimes, but
a lot.
So he's got a very interesting point as far as like just that social, unique social like time that we're in. You know what I mean? Yeah. So now is it like I hope that's the case. Like, I guess, you know what I mean? Like, do I believe that people are doing that? And like, you know, if someone was just a fan of someone who's not as lyrical, are they all of a sudden going to just listen to lyrical MCs? You know what I mean? And what they're putting out?
Right.
I mean, I hope so. I doubt it, though. You know what I mean? But I hope so. But I think he's probably talking amongst MCs themselves, right?
I would say so. I would say so.
So, yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, the consumer, us, those folks who appreciate, understand, and know what good lyricism is, it's a great time for us, you know? So.
Lone, you got anything else?
No, I mean, you guys have pretty much just kind of covered it. I mean, the only thing I was going to say is kind of what Spoolz said is like, you know, and kind of correlates to what Terry was saying too, because, you know, we are in a time right now where it's not as, we're not as quarantined as we were like 6 months ago, you know, but at the same time, like everybody is still like, a lot of people are working from home. A lot of people are on Zoom meetings. A lot of people don't have the commutes that they used to do to listen to the music. So I haven't been listening to more music. You know, I haven't been listening to more lyricists versus anything else, but maybe I don't count that. So I find it a little harder to listen to music when I don't go anywhere. So that's a good point because a lot of records I listen to, I'm coming to you, Jay Diff, is during a commute or when I'm in the car. That's a lot of time I listen to music, so that's fair. Yeah, I didn't think about that, but go ahead, Jay Diff. I know you had a point. I don't want you to lose your train of thought.
Yeah, that's actually what I was going to touch on as far as being in the car. That's another advantage that club records have. Those club records are still going to get played on the radio regardless. The lyrical shit is still not making it to the radio. So they still have the advantage of being on the airwaves, consumers to ingest. Because even though we don't necessarily listen to the radio all the time, majority of the people do tune into their local radio stations and listen to the same tracks that are going to get played in the club.
In rotation, like clockwork, like out. Jay Morris talked about that before. Algorithms and how they have everything set to play those records. So I think
if anything, the algorithm's been thrown off. The algorithm's been really because records that should be huge in the club right now, then, you know, and sometimes there's a correlation between the club and what gets played on the radio. That's been thrown off in a major way. That I know if you're probably a program director, you're looking at the research and, you know, it's hard to figure out exactly what's really popping because look, you just play that same Drake song been playing for 6 months. It'll probably work.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds like he said this, you know, I'm just going off how I'm reading it, my personal interpretation of it. It's like, I think it sounds like he was real, like mad confident in saying this. You know what I'm saying? And there are so many determining factors and so many things that you could point to as gray area, you know, when you look at this. But the first thing I thought about when I read it was, okay, if that's the case, how does this last as everything begins to go back towards whatever is whatever? Like that's the first thing that jumped out to me. Like, you take advantage of it now. How are you going to carry this over? Do you fall off a cliff and go right back to the quote unquote underground or where you were? Like, that's the first thing that jumped out to me. That you sustain that, you know? So I don't know, man. Like, there's so many artists that are like Freddie Gibbs is great for himself pre-pandemic, during the pandemic. Like, you know, people like that are on that level with that vibe, they've done okay. But I don't know, man. It's just it's a very interesting topic. It's a very interesting comment from Currency, and he's the epitome of somebody that would be able to make that statement because fam is putting out music for years on the underground and has a huge following. So if anybody can speak to it, he'd be the one that can speak to it. So I definitely would lean towards trusting his judgment on that.
If you've enjoyed this segment of the New Old Heads podcast, make sure to join our live show every Tuesday at 9 p.m. Eastern at twitch.tv/bringingdowntheband and join our private Discord community with talks on hip-hop, music, news, and everything else.